Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives, back for another ranking video. Today I'm going to talk about all 4 studio albums from a Bay Area thrash band, started off in the 80s, still around today. This band is called Heathen, and if you like thrash, if you like, bands like Testament, Overkill, Death Angel, Violence, Forbidden, this should be right up your alley. So maybe this is a band that you have heard of, have not checked out, or you know them well, but only 4 albums. And as I go through these albums, I'll tell you about the gaps and things like that. But from time to time, I will do little, I guess this would just be obviously a little bit of a mini ranking, kind of just spotlight the band, maybe bring up the awareness. And like I said, in case you missed out on some of these bands, listening to some Law's Rocket in the background, that's another band that I will rank here shortly. Well, not a big discography either. I think they only have 6 studio albums, but just a few gems in these. I don't know whether you want to call them third tier thrash. Don't mix it up with third. I don't mean third rate. I wouldn't want to even mix those two up. But there's just a few bands that didn't get the notoriety as, obviously as the big 4 or, second level stuff like, Testament, Overkill. But there is some real thrasher pieces in some of these bands' discography. And sometimes it just needs somebody to, talk about them and get you to check them out. So again, only 4 albums, kind of inspired by a reissue that just came out of one of these albums that was very hard to get, and it actually got reissued on vinyl and CD. I will show you both today in case you're interested, but let's get started. 35 years, 1987 was their first studio album, right till today, 2022. 35 years, but only 4 studio albums. But a couple notable things. You will know the one constant member. Well, actually there's 2 constant members, but Lee Altus, who is a member of Exodus since probably 04. He has been on the last 6 studio albums, if you count that remake of Bonded by Blood. What was it called? Let There Be Blood. But he has been on the last 5 studio albums plus that remake album. Great guitar player. David White, vocalist, has been in there since not the very beginning, but any of their studio recordings is his. He's been on those. He's actually originally from a band called Blind Illusion, but I don't think he appeared on any of their studio albums, and they don't have many either. So there's another good band to talk about in the future too. But let's get rolling. And I did have a fresh listen to all these, just as a reminder. I do want to, like I said, just have a fresh listen so I know what I think I'm talking about. But I'm glad I listened to this one. I know it's coming in 4th place, but it is still better than I originally thought. This is their latest release from 2020 called Empire the Blind, and fabulous cover, painting by Travis Smith. There's the back cover. You would know Travis Smith from, he has done a ton of Overkill, my favorite thrash band. He's done probably 9 or 10 of their covers. Bunch of Iced Earth, who else? Opeth he's done. Lots of other bands, but you might know the name Travis Smith. But this is their 2020 release, first in 11 years at the time. Their release before that was 2009, which we'll talk about. So there's David, and of course there's Lee, the only 2 original members. Craig and Lum has been in the band here since probably about 08, and then the drummer and the bass player are actually new to this album. Not a bad album. The one thing that does bother me a bit in here is the production is over-processed sounding at times, and it's just the kind of the rhythm guitar tone is very, I don't know if generic is the right word, just not warm. but there is lots of great guitar harmony in this album. The songs are very well written. So there is a lot of positives on here, but the one thing that does bother me, and it probably, if you're watching this video, it probably would bother you too. There's a lot of kind of samey production with modern thrash, and you know, a lot of it does sound samey in a way. So, and I'm sure you know what I mean. But anyways, do check this album out. It is actually, just the other day, they just released another single. So this album's been out for about a year and a half, but you know what, Nuclear Blast is still behind it, promoting it. The newest single they just released is Blood to Be Let. Great song, but my favorites, probably the first half of the album here is super strong, in my opinion. The Blythe, the title track, Empire of the Blind, love that one. A couple of my real favorites, Dead and Gone, Sun in My Hand, and there is a instrumental on here called A Fine Red Mist. Check that one out. If you don't check out anything else from this album, do check that one out. Tons of solos on there. There's lots of guest spots. Gary Holt's on there. Rick Hunold's on here. Original Heathen guitar player Doug Piercy has a bit of a solo on here on that song. Cool, very cool instrumental. So coming in at number 4, Empire of the Blind. Not a terrible album, but just not my favorite of the 4 Heathen albums. Coming up next is, well, basically this is their comeback album. They had their second album came out in 1991, and then 18 years flies by, and we finally get this one, The Evolution of Chaos. Another awesome cover. I love their logo too. This one is, excuse me, this is another Travis Smith cover, and the gatefold opens up actually to a full shot of the painting. Great cover by Travis Smith. There is the band shot in there. So we still have David, Craigan. So this is Craigan's debut album with Heathen. By the way, I forgot to mention that on Empire of the Blind, basically Craigan, he wrote the majority of that album. Lee Altus, of course, is, you know, they're doing some guitar work, great solos, harmonizing, stuff like that. But as far as the music for that album, Craigan wrote, yeah, pretty much all of it. And I think David is responsible for most of the lyrics. But original drummer Darren Minter is on this album. That's the last album he would appear on. But I really enjoy this one, and I enjoyed a little touch more than Empire of the Blind. And reasons why: the guitar tone on here is a lot better, in my opinion. It sounds great. This is a reissue on Mascot Records, and this is one of those bands that's jumped around. There's 4 albums I'm showing you today that are all on different labels, so they never really got you know, a strong footing in their career. But I still wanted to, you know, bring these guys up because they are worth checking out for sure. But this is a solid album. I would say the one downfall to this is it's a little long, and some of the songs are a little long, you know, for a thrash metal verging on power metal, because David's voice is not super gruff or anything. He would be like a I wouldn't say John Bush range, maybe a little bit, or a little bit higher register at times, but great vocalist. Check out the tracks. Dying Season, No Stone Unturned, really good song, but too long. It's like 11 minutes long. It kind of just should have cut itself off at some point, but still good. Control by Chaos, check that one out. Arrows of Agony, great song. Blood Cult, but like I said, maybe a little too long. I think it's over an hour, probably around an hour and 7 minutes. And it's not too long in amount of songs, it's just too long with the length of a few songs. So do check this one out. This is The Evolution of Chaos, their comeback album after, like I said, 18 years. So that's coming in at number 3, coming in at number 2. And number 2 and number 1, I would suspect that they would be your number 1 and your number 2 if you're a fan of this band. And if you're just getting into these guys, this could be a good starting point for you too. Both in the thrash-piece category, I must state that now. So coming in at number 2, their debut album from 1987 called Breaking the Silence. Notable producer on here, you will be familiar with the name Ronnie Montrose. He does the production on this. This is actually a reissue, vinyl reissue on Back on Black. Forget when this one came out. Doesn't really matter. 2012. Doesn't really matter. But the only thing I don't like about this cover is that they should have used their, I guess, they didn't get into their classic logo into the second album. But oh well. If this cover looks a little bit familiar to you, or the artist that did this one, if you're familiar with Forbidden's albums Forbidden Evil and Twisted into Form, this is a Kent Mateau cover. If you look closely, you'll see these kind of twisted skulls and stuff, kind of reminiscent of those 2 Forbidden albums that I just mentioned, both thrasher pieces, by the way. Do check those out. But this one, top to bottom, I'd say the only weak point on this one is the cover song of Set Me Free. Basically, I could do without that one. It's not a terrible cover, but it seems to, it just shifts gears into way too low of a gear compared to what the rest of this, excuse me, this album. To me, this one has a real, if you're familiar, and if you're watching this video, you probably should be familiar with Exodus Bonded by Blood. This one has that real razor sharp guitar tone, that real just machine gun, like that, and just very familiar, very reminiscent of Bonded by Blood, which this one came out a couple years after. This one even has a bit of Metallica Kill 'Em All feel, in my opinion. But check out the tracks. So Death by Hanging, the leadoff track, fantastic. Goblin's Blade, Pray for Death, the title track, Breaking the Silence, and my favorite track, again, if you don't check out any other track but this one, it's called Save the Skull. Absolutely ripping guitar tone. Yeah, do check that one out. So coming in at number 2, Breaking the Silence from 1987, and that only leaves one. And I got a few friends that I talked to, and this is their number 1. This is my number 1. I would say number 1 and 2 are pretty close though, but I will always take this one. And this is the reissue I was referring to earlier, that kind of inspired this video a little bit too. This is Heathen, Victims of Deception, brand new reissue from Music on Vinyl. Sounds great, very cool artwork, and there is their classic logo that debuted on their second album. This is 1991. What can I tell you about this album other than it is a thrasher piece top to bottom. There is a cover song on here of Kill the King, so a rainbow cover. A very good cover song. I'm not the biggest covers guy, I've said that over and over, but they did a really good job. They made it their own. Tracks to check out. The leadoff track it's a scorcher. Hypnotized, Opiate of the Masses, great song. Heathen song, Fear of the Unknown, Prisoner of Fate, another one not as heavy, but this whole album just, like I said, it's definitely in the old thrasher piece category and should be checked out. This also got reissued on CD, Music on CD, so that is another division of Music on Vinyl. Very hard to get. I do have an original, not an original, but I have a, original Japanese pressing of this album. But to get this nowadays, prior to this reissue, very tough, very expensive. So if you do want to check this out and maybe not spend the money on the vinyl, but you do want to check out this band, this one is out there and available now. I'd say do check it out. What else could number 1 for me, this is Victims of Deception, and I'd say check out any of their albums. You really, they didn't make a terrible album. Like I said, number 4, production a little, I don't know, the proper way. Anyways, if you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to production. But this one sounds great, and do check it out. So just a quick ranking video, kind of you know, or slash ranking slash spotlight, just to bring up some awareness to you know, some of these bands that don't have a lot of albums and you know, or have started off in the 80s, went away for a long time, and then are back now. So I will continue with you know, a few of the obscure rankings. You don't have you don't always have to have your Judas Priests and Iron Maidens and Metallicas in there when there's other gems to discover. So hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, stay heavy.